student in the academy in the summertime this past summer, and I absolutely adored it. They gave me a new outlook on the arts, a new outlook on poetry especially, and it made me so much more open to the arts in general. Helping others has always been my passion, especially children and especially community themed programs like this. So it is my hope that I am able to assist in fostering a safe space for children to be who they want to be, whoever it is that may be, and love the arts as much as I have come to love it. That's why I'm with WBL. Enroll in classes today at wblinc.org/academy.
Welcome, welcome, welcome all. Here we are again tonight for another college materials session where here at Words Beats in Life, we believe all our youth are college material. Our college material program is an incredibly important initiative that we offer to our students at the Academy. This program helps our students and their families learn what is necessary to be college material. We do this by teaching what college is, allowing our youth to gain access to resources needed to help understand the importance of education and having a plan after high school. Tonight, we would like to thank our sponsors, Herb Block Foundation, Arts Forward Fund, DC Commission on the Arts and Humanities, and PEPCO. So tonight, our college materials session, the time has come. You're actually grown-ish. Now it's time to start adulting. But what does that even mean? Tonight, for the Grownish session, we'll discuss how to prepare for the real world and all the things that come with growing up. We have an outstanding cast of panelists tonight that I am going to introduce to you all. First, we have Murphy Jones. Murphy Jones is a freshman political science student from Fort Worth, Texas, by way of Greensboro, North Carolina. In his short time at Howard University, he has been able to aid his fellow Bison by serving as the current chief of staff to the Freshman College of Arts and Sciences Council. Murphy has also been able to aid the community beyond Howard by serving as a site coordinator for the Howard University Alternative Spring Break Program, where he successfully managed and coordinated a week-long service for up to 30 people. In his spare time, he loves to read, debate, and run. Thank you, Murphy, for joining us. Up next, we have Sarai Areola Jacob. Sarai is a freshman political science student at Howard University. She is completely goal-driven and willing to commit her all to bring help to not only herself, but others. She is an advocate of balancing success while keeping your mental health key. Thank you, Sarai, for joining us. Up next, we have Laz Rashid. Laz is from Bridgeport, Connecticut, and is a current sophomore music business jazz voice major at Howard University. So we have a room full of Bison so far. We welcome all the HBCU community here. He transferred from Lake Forest College in Illinois, where he discovered it was not the school for him. Laz has been singing since he was a little boy in church and has performed in musicals throughout grade school all the way until high school. His grandfather's church was where he found a love for music, which led him to decide that for the rest of his life, his dream job is using his voice to impact the lives of others and provide for himself. Laz is working towards touring with mainstream artists after gaining his degree and believes that anything is possible with God, having faith, and hard work. And I second, third, and raise my hand to all of those things as being the key to success. Thank you, Laz, for joining us. Up next, we have De'Ara Jones. De'Ara is from a small town called Supala, Oklahoma. She is a sophomore currently attending Langston University. She is currently a psychology major with the hopes of being a high school counselor upon her graduation in spring of 2024. De'Ara is passionate about wanting to impact and support her community. This same passion has now led her to begin working as a residential assistant at her university. Thank you to all of our panelists tonight. We welcome you here. So happy to have you. So we're going to get right into it. I hope you're ready. We're all ready? 2 thumbs up if you're ready. Okay, good. 2 thumbs up. Good. So let's start off with the current climate that we're in right now. How, if at all, has the pandemic affected your process of growing up or of that of those around you? Anyone can answer.
I can start. I didn't know if anyone else wanted to start, but I'll just go ahead and start. So hi everyone again. My name is Murphy Jones. I would probably say for me personally, if anything, I think it kind of made me grow up faster. So for me, right, the pandemic kind of actually had started a little bit sooner, kind of in high school. So it was my senior year of high school with a lot of the things that I wanted to do starting to go virtual. And so my senior year, I was kind of in the mixture between virtual and in-person classes. And when I was in high school, I know a lot of the things that I wanted to do, I ended up having to stop doing them. I ended up having to go work a job. I was trying to balance school, and I was also at that point also managing a campaign for a local city council person. So for me, right, it was more along the lines of me starting to learn a lot of the skills that I was going to be using in college, such as time management, orderliness, like keeping everything together, because, right, I just had to make sure all of those things were together.
Awesome. So you had a more clearer kind of transition into it as to others kind of had like an abrupt, like, okay, I'm in person, now I'm virtual, now I don't know if I'm going to campus. So your transition was a little bit smoother. Anyone else want to speak on that process?
For me,
sure, I can jump in. Oh, go ahead.
Okay, I'll be quick. For me, it was a wake up. It was a wake up call because it was such a, such a rare time. I had never even heard of anything like this in the history of my existence. And when I was in the middle of the pandemic, I was still at my other school, and I was telling my mom, I was like, it's crazy because I've been following all these creative directors and people who are in the art industry or in the entertainment industry, and their shows have been stopped, and there's dancer relief funds and all these other projects for them to, acquire like money for their living purposes. And I felt discouraged. And my mom told me, I actually told her I was going to switch my major to like economics or something accounting, like kind of finance based. And she said that you don't want to grow up and become, older in your life, and you look back 20, 30 years and like, wow, I should have done this, I should have done that. And I was very discouraged because I was like, if this happens again, like, what am I going to do? And my mom explained to me, she said, you don't want to have a plan B. You just want to have your plan A. When plan A doesn't work, you go to another plan A. So that is more of like a winner's mentality, to think of, I'm going to do this because I want to do it. I can do it. But if something goes wrong, then we just change the plans, but we don't change our dream. We don't change our destiny. So for me, I was more solidified in my decision to find a major, to what to go to school for. So I switched my school to have the best opportunity I can within my field, and I ended up at Howard University.
That's awesome. And I'm sure that they are so glad to have you. And your mother, she sounds like a wise woman. She gave you great words of advice. As a fellow artist, this is not as a stable field as others, but we make do with what we do, and we follow our dreams. And at the end of the day, that is what really matters. So if plan A doesn't work, you start planning plan A.2. And that's just how it goes. And you work your way through the alphabet until it works for you. So that's awesome. Sarai, I know you wanted to add to that. Go ahead.
Yeah, those are really awesome answers. I would say from my perspective, the pandemic really caused me to reframe what I thought of as education. And what I mean by that is before the pandemic, I didn't realize how important to me interaction was in order for my learning process to be as effective as I wanted it to be. And when the pandemic happened, all of that was turned on its head, of course, with virtual classes and having to go remote and not having the camaraderie of being in the classroom, not being able to interact with my teachers on that level that I had for all of my life. And then having that taken away, it took a huge toll on the way I learned and the way I viewed school. School became this like strange optional thing for me. And I don't know if anybody else related to that, but this kind of idea of rolling out of my bed and hopping on Zoom and school just became such an enigma to me. It became more so like plowing through assignments, getting things turned in rather than actually learning. So I would say that, and this isn't to take any personal responsibility away from me, but I would say that my grades suffered during the pandemic because of that lack of interaction. And I honestly had to deal with like rejection from schools that I applied to because of my, lackluster performance during the pandemic. And I kind of had to come to this realization that my education and what I want to learn is more than my GPA. It's more than my grades. It's more than the amount of assignments that I can churn out for completion. It's to me what fulfills me the most is the integrity that comes with a job well done and learning as much as I can and retaining that information and applying that information. That's what gives me hope in terms of the education system. So, it's a roundabout way of saying that the pandemic took away what made education beautiful to me. And I had to kind of give that to myself. I had to force myself out of bed. I had to take these tests without looking on Quizlet because I honestly could. I could cheat on all these tests and I could take the easy route. But for me to feel fulfilled in my educational experience, I had to reinvigorate myself, light a fire under myself. Nobody's taking attendance. Nobody's watching over me. Nobody's going to send me home. It's me holding me accountable for my education. And that process in and of itself was extremely difficult, but it was extremely crucial into making me a more disciplined and more well-rounded person.
That is awesome. That was a great insight in itself. And I'm glad you realized early on what commitment you needed to start making to better yourself in a situation. You didn't fall short to the pandemic having a hold on you. And that's what really matters. Having that discipline within yourself to still steadfast and see it through. You did it and you're still doing it. So kudos to all of you, because I can't even imagine doing that full time as a student. But studies show that nearly 6 in 10 fall 2020 first year students felt at least somewhat unprepared for post-secondary education because of COVID shutdowns as they wrapped up high school. So similar to Murphy, he kind of started in that transition of the pandemic when things were first going virtual. And that could be really uneasy, having to experience something for the first time in a totally different way than what you had imagined. And it was universal across the board, not only at four-year institutions, but two-year institutions also. Students at four-year institutions were twice as likely to feel very unprepared at 26% compared to 13% of new two-year students. So it's rough. A lot of people were impacted by this and are still impacted by this, and it hasn't gone away. We're prayerful that soon there's a light at the end of the tunnel, but people are still trudging through. Which leads us into our next question. While you can never really be 100% ready for anything, do you feel like young people today are well equipped for adulthood?
I don't think so. I think that there are a lot of gaps in high school, coming into college, and then even some things in college that you don't get to learn ahead of time until you've experienced it. So I don't know, little things like time management, financial management, just having the ability to know when you should be enjoying yourself and when you should be working. Like, how much time do I spend doing this? How much time do I spend doing that? And I learned that in college, but it was like kind of I learned it on my own. And it's different. You can hear from your sisters, your brothers, your friends who are already in college. But that's a part of life. I feel we all have to sometimes experience things on our own in order to learn them. We can hear different stories from different people. But I feel in high school, I think it would have. I've actually read up on some studies of this, and I remember my senior year, I had reached out to a lot of my friends who didn't go to high school with me, and they were talking about how, we have algebra, we have geometry, but we don't have an elective class for how do we start a bank account, how much do we put in our savings, how much should we be investing in something else, how much should we not take out of our account. So I think more adult things in the financial realm would have been helpful in high school. We still have our parents, but it's always great to have another source of education for things that we may not have learned yet.
Right. Thank you for sharing that. I feel like hopefully more and more education systems will come up with the times of teaching real life aspects, everyday things you need to know about signing a check, writing a check, cashing a check, how to do your taxes, everyday things that you shouldn't learn until you get to that day. I hope more and more education systems start to come up with the times in teaching those very essential aspects of life. Um, Anyone else want to add to that? About
Oh,
equipment?
yeah. I'm here. I don't know if we were gonna go. Okay,
Sorry.
I'll make it quick.
Go ahead.
So I was just gonna say real quick. Yeah, I completely agree that I think right now our current school system and the way that we're kind of teaching kids is not really equipping them for life. I was kind of listening to this one of these like studies or podcasts that was kind of talking about what our school system is currently doing right now. And when you really think about it, and when you really think about what our school system is kind of doing, it doesn't really allow students a lot of space to be creative, nor does it really allow students a lot of space to have critical thinking. And I think those are like two kind of aspects that are needed for not even just high school students, but middle school students as well as they begin to matriculate through life, right? When you ask people at their jobs, or when you ask people what are some of the skills that they use, or people who even work in like just different kinds of aspects of life, right? You ask them, what are the skills that you use, right? A lot of them are not going to say things along the lines of, I'm using calculus, or I'm using applied calculus, for an example, right? Now, maybe if you went into that field, you might be, but a lot of them are using problem-solving skills. They're using critical thinking. They're using a lot of skills that are not necessarily taught, or not as heavily taught. And I also think we don't allow our students a lot of space to be, not even just to be students, but we don't allow a lot of our students a lot of space to be able to find what they want to do. I think that we put so much emphasis, especially in high school, on you going to school and you going to class and you taking a lot of these prerequisites, but we never put them in places. For example, right? I know I wanted to do campaign management. And it was not until I kind of had to go outside of high school and outside of the current institution for me to be able to find opportunities for that. So I definitely think that we should be equipping and giving our students the opportunities and the resources to be able to do that.
Totally agree. And so does our audience, Andy. He mentioned the education system needs to do a better job of asking students what they actually want to learn about, not just sticking to the curriculum. And sometimes the curriculum is extremely outdated. As a current middle school teacher, the curriculum is outdated. Like, they need to get with the 21st century. We need to get with the times. We need to be teaching the children what they actually want to learn, because the demographics of what people wanted to learn when the curriculum was created is totally different end of the spectrum now in the 21st century. So I definitely agree with that. Dear, I know you wanted to add next.
Yeah, so I completely agree with everybody. I guess my note would be, I feel like the educational system has the tendency of hurrying up and pushing kids and graduating kids and not really teaching them life skills. I know for my senior class, before we even thought about, even there was even a pandemic even in action or in place, we were slowly transitioning to the point where we were making an issue that kids need to know how to write a checkbook, open a bank account. I mean, little things as, changing the oil in your car. And just, we did not want to graduate kids that didn't know the littlest stuff is to be an adult. And I feel like I don't think teachers feel like they're not doing their job, but I do feel like kids need to know more than just their math or their science. They need to know, you just don't need to just go to school, and go to college and hurry up and get a degree and then go to a job you really don't enjoy. You want to really get in depth to know who you are as a person, and, learning adult things is, even though it might be something little as, writing a check, you still need to know stuff like that. Because once you're in college, you are kind of on your own. You have to bump your head a little bit, but I'd rather bump my head twice and a million times if I could have learned that in high school. But that was my note on that.
I love that analogy, bumping your head, because, I would rather bump my head once than a million times too, if I can help it. But according to a survey by McGraw-Hill Education, only 40% of college seniors feel prepared to pursue a career after they receive a degree. With that being said, how did the people in your life, be it at school or your personal support system, prepare you for the real world, if at all?
So I'm happy to talk about that. So just like a quick background, my mom, she's a Knife Spellman, so HBCU power and whatnot. I would say that I feel like everything that I am and everything that is good about me is honestly it comes from my mom. And she, thanks to my dad too. But I'm thinking about like academically in the way that I navigate the academic world. It's definitely thanks to my mom. And I would say the reason that is because she taught me from a young age to not have my metrics be based on external validation. And what I mean by that, think about your class ranks and your GPAs and your final grades. Like my mom taught me how to reframe the goals that I had for myself in a way that was more centric on what I wanted to accomplish within myself rather than appeasing some other standard. So a good example of that would be, rather than having a goal of, oh, I want a 4.0 GPA, my mom would rather me have a goal of do the best I can and learn as much as I can. Obviously, you can translate that goal into having a 4.0 GPA, but by not centering your self-esteem and the way you see yourself on these external metrics is a really important way of maintaining, number one, mental health, but number two, maintaining a goal, what you want to accomplish with your life, because you obviously hear all these stories of these people, the man who has everything, the man who wants nothing but still is miserable on the inside. You can have the 4.0 GPA, you can be the valedictorian, you can have all of these wonderful, beautiful metrics, you could be at the top school, but at the end of the day, if you are not appeasing the goals that you have within yourself, then you're not going to have that self-fulfillment at all. And what's sad is there are a lot of people who haven't taken the time to really sit with themselves and think about, what is it that I want to accomplish with my life? What do I want people to see when they look at me? What do I want people to think about me after I'm gone? People don't have the time to think about that because it's just so much easier to go with that GPA, right? But it takes a little bit of extra introspection to really like determine a goal that is based on what you value, what you yourself value. So that's what I would say on like how my mom has really prepared me for, being in an academic environment and not getting so burnt out, all the implications that come with being.
Awesome. Glad again we have so much HBCU representation in the room. We love that. Again, the question is, how did the people in your life, be it at school or your personal support system, prepare you for the real world?
I'll go. So in my classes, I'm in the College of Fine Arts. So I'm on the third floor, which is the floor with all the music students. And within our field, it's not really dependent on, your grades or your degree or anything like that. It's based off of you making these relationships and these connections with people that can get you into doors that like degrees can't or knowledge cannot. And I always remember hearing that, you know, people go to college and think of it as a race. Like you going to college, you're getting your degree. It's like you getting running shoes, but still somebody else who has not gone to college can still run the race without their shoes. You have an advantage, but it does not mean you're going to win. And I think of that in the regards to my major. So being a music, being someone who's getting a degree in music, and I want to travel and go on tour and all these things. Just because I get a degree does not mean I'm going to be successful. Does not mean I'm going to get all the jobs that I want. So I have to make the degree work for me if I want it to work. If I have to make the degree work if I want it to work for me. So I'm starting now, meeting all these people, going to events, discovering different types of events that I wouldn't put myself in. Like being uncomfortable is kind of a new comfortability for me. And I am discovering that, you know, the best way for me to think about my future post Howard is just to start meeting people now, start finding out what people did after they graduated, how they are doing in their journey right now, and what would they have changed if they could have changed something. And I think that's very beneficial for me to know before I graduate, because if I don't do anything until I graduate, it's just like, okay, I have my degree, like now what? I feel like I would be further back than I am now, which that wouldn't be a good place for me. But I just think that like meeting people, alumni coming back, and just current students who are having the same aspirations as myself is very helpful and beneficial in my just in my journey at Howard.
I just want to say that you also far just wise beyond your years. Okay, I'm just collecting a lot of gems from you. That analogy of having an advantage in the race, but you might not win. A lot of people don't understand that, especially in academia, that their degrees and accolades and certifications and awards could honestly mean nothing if the person standing next to you is faster at the job, more talented, has better resources, comes from a better demographic. Those things don't matter. And that is good that you realize, not only, like you said, this degree, I have to work it. Like it's not just gonna carry me along the way. We have to work as a partnership. It is a team. You and the degree are working together as a team. Like that was just so insightful. I'm so thankful for all those gems I just got from you all. Anyone else want to add to this question? Go ahead, Murphy.
Yeah, I just wanted to add something real quick. So also, like kind of everyone else, I also come from a family of HBCU grads. So I've kind of heard of my bio. I'm actually from Greensboro, North Carolina, where the notorious North Carolina A&T is located. And while I am a Bison, I will always represent North Carolina A&T. My dad, my aunt, some other of my family members have all graduated from North Carolina A&T. And a lot of the things that they taught me, in addition to coming from an HBCU, a plethora of HBCUs, is I also come from a family of entrepreneurs. So my aunt actually owns a real estate company out in North Carolina. I have an uncle who owns currently right now working on his restaurant. So having them and having them teach me a lot of things that I really wouldn't be able to learn in academia, I think was really powerful, because I think some of the things that you learn in entrepreneurship, especially outside of academia, is that unlike the school, right, there's not one traditional route to get to your end destination. There are so many different routes, and I think that school tries to push you in one specific way. And for me, right, when I look at school, I look at it as an investment. So the investment that I'm making is I'm making an investment in connections. One of the things that we have at Howard University is a very powerful alumni system and a very powerful network of connections. So for me, right, when I decided what school I wanted to go to, I was thinking about things such as those connections. I was thinking about, okay, if I was to graduate at the end of my 4 years, right, what am I going to be able to do with my degree? Currently, I'm majoring in political science, and I think we're the second largest major behind biology, right? So there's a whole bunch of, in my eyes, right, when you look at the numbers, there's a whole bunch of Murphys out there here at Howard University, right? It's those things, what is going to set you apart from everybody else? And I think that that had kind of went into this one saying that my dad always told me, which is similar to what Laz was saying, right? It's not what you know all the time. Sometimes it's who you know. And if you know the right people, if you know the people who are going to be able to get you into the doors, the people that can attest to your character and the work that you can do, then it sometimes doesn't even matter about that degree that's behind your name, right? Because I know plenty of people who have a Juris Doctor, an MBA, a BA, or whatever, right? But if I was to ask them, can you go and execute whatever nonprofit or whatever profit strategy for me? Then, right, sometimes they fall short because they don't have that experience behind them. So I definitely think that it's about you being able to balance both of them. And I think that's something my parents always taught me, which is that it's good that you have the education behind your name. It's good that you have the BA, the JD, or the MBA, but it's also good for you to have the personal experience where you've done the work before also behind your name.
Well, we all know you all come from great demographics and great families because they have also given you wise words of wisdom and great gems to live by. It sounds like you were pretty much prepared for the real world. But to tag on to what Murphy was saying, my next question is how important are internships and experience and connections outside of the classroom? And you kind of did a nice segue. So if you want to continue, Murphy, you can, and then you can pass the mic to someone else if you like.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll start it off real quick. I'm so sorry, y'all. No. I'll just start off real quick. So as I was kind of talking about beforehand, I think one of the most, like, even though I'm a freshman, one of the most pivotal things I was able to do this year was a program called Howard University Alternative Spring Break. And while I was here, I was able to plan a week-long service initiative for 30 people. When going into planning that trip, I was in charge of finding food, housing, and then service opportunities for a week-long trip. So, because at the end of the day, we make our trip free for all of our students who go. And that's our job as a site coordinator. So I had the pleasure of being able to do that and to be able to serve the Charleston and Columbia, South Carolina area this year. For me, that I think was probably one of the most important things that I was able to do at Howard University, only because the skills that I learned while doing that project and the skills that I learned and I was able to really pick up on were skills that were unmatched, I think, by anything I think I could have learned in the classroom. Because I think the classroom, right, it sets you up to be able to do a lot of things. But I think internships and even projects such as that are all about executing what you've learned in the classroom. And so for me, right, I've done things such as, right, I've learned about risk management. I've learned about how to like find food or how to kind of do things along those lines. But right, when it comes down to actually executing, I think that's what the whole part of internships and I think the whole part of you doing kind of like service trip projects or anything along those lines is all about, is the execution. And even on this trip, I had the opportunity just to be able to really execute a lot of those things that I was able to learn in the classroom for each one of our participants, as well as just for this whole entire project.
That's awesome. Thank you for segueing that conversation for us, Murphy. Anyone else want to add to the importance of internships, relationships, and experiences outside of the classroom?
I think
I'll go next.
Because I wanted to say something.
You know what? I'm sorry. I'll be quick. So I definitely feel like one of the most important parts of my experience at Howard so far has been the things that I've done beyond the classroom. One of my biggest proudest points last semester was Murphy was talking about entrepreneurship, which is very near and dear to my heart because I'm actually working on starting my own tech startup, and I was actually able to win second place in a pitch competition for the business, and I was able to get like a little grant for it. I honestly don't believe in my heart I would have been emboldened enough to do something like that my first semester if it wasn't for me being at Howard. But, that's another conversation, the kind of school that you're best fit for you. But I really do feel like those kinds of extracurricular activities that are beyond the classroom are super important because as Murphy was saying, piggybacking again, he's saying there's a whole bunch of Murphys, there's a whole bunch of Sarais, there's a whole bunch of me's, a whole bunch of Pollys. What sets us apart is that unique portfolio of experiences that we're able to gain during these 4 years. There is thousands. There's literally 4 years from now, there's going to be thousands of people with the same degree as me. What's going to be different between me and them are the things that I did coinciding with that degree. So right now, I'm actually an intern at Grownish Analytics. It's a data firm. It's a political data firm, and I'm a sales intern with them. And this internship has been absolutely life changing. It's my first like actual internship where I was allowed to, I'm actually sitting down at a desk and I'm actually like engaging in meetings and I'm on sales calls and pitching things to people, learning about data analytics. And these are just, I was literally applying things that I've learned in my intro to political science class first semester into this internship. So this internship has been absolutely amazing. After this internship, I'm supposed to start working at the Pentagon, which is absolutely, I'm so grateful that I was able to get that. But that is something that is going to be very important to my career as I want to be an international lawyer. There's again, so many people want to do the job that I want to do. There's way too many people that want to be lawyers out there in the world. And the strategy that I'm going about trying to set myself apart from those people, many internships, real world experience as I possibly can. So that's why I would always say that so much the school that you go to, but it's about what you do with your time at said school. So that's why internships are always super important, no matter where you are.
Thank you for sharing that. We'll have De'Ara and then Laz for response.
So, yeah, I totally agree to get internships or get into field work or whatever. To kind of give my personal story, I had actually volunteered to go back to my old high school, Sapulpa High School, and I went back to work with special education. And it was such a humble experience to be with the kids, get to know them, and just not see them as exceptional. And I guess you would say the special education, they're more than just that. And I was able to build wonderful bonds with them. They've actually convinced me slowly to go into the educational field because of that. So I think it's a great way to figure out what you want to do. Because at first I wanted to be a substance abuse counselor, and I wanted to do that. But going to do something different and something I was super unaware of, it completely changed me. And I feel like I'll be more passionate to work with kids. And it doesn't have to necessarily be special education, but I know for sure that is a wonderful option that I would be able to do a great job in. So.
I agree with De'Ara. I would just say, just some short and sweet, the internships and outside experiences from your school while you are learning, while you are in school, is important because, you want to see what you like and what you don't like, and it's important to be in these spaces because it's going to show you everything about what you are imagining yourself doing. So you might not see the behind the scenes parts. I don't know, maybe you may not like how a certain situation is set up within a job that you are potentially looking for. So you can always still be within your field, but maybe do something different within that field. So I think that when you do internships, it's very important because you're not only figuring out what you want to do, but you're also figuring out what you don't want to do.
And that was short and sweet. Thanks, Laz. But a good segue again, De'Ara, and Laz, to my next question about how important is it about doing things that you are passionate about? De'Ara spoke on how that kind of changed for her once she had that internship, where her true passion lied. And I know just from speaking with you all in the short, like 30-minute time span, that you all seem very passionate about the things that you were doing. If you want to speak on your passion and how to persevere and push this passion for other people too.
It's so important to be passionate about what you do because this is going to be something that you do for a long time, and it can seem it can be very repetitive. And if there's not a reason you're doing this besides the money, besides taking care of yourself or your family, then what are you doing it for? Why are you working in this field? Why are you doing this job? And if you don't love what you do, you're going to eventually be miserable or result to another field and later on, and you're probably going to lead to having regrets, and you don't want to have that in your life. You want to be able to work hard now, push through the tears, the late nights, no sleep, all the other issues, not issues, but the results that you get from working hard without reaping the benefits yet, because the progress in the future is going to be much greater than how you feel now. And we can't always operate off of how we feel, like, oh, I love this or I love that, because feelings are temporal. You're not always going to feel like you want to be working doing this. You're not always going to feel that in the moment. But to know in your mind that I'm doing this for a specific purpose, I'm doing this because I want to do this in the future. I may not want to do it on Monday, but on Tuesday, I'm going to feel like I want to do it. Wednesday, I'm going to be a little iffy. I don't know. But the fact that you have a goal in your mind and you know that you're going to achieve it no matter what is very important. So you want to be able to have a passion for it, because that'll give you a reason to always continue going.
I again second that. As a fellow artist, it is so important to do what you're passionate about. I'm passionate about art in all aspects, and I encourage anyone else who's passionate about anything, not even just the art, to pursue it to its fullest potential. Anyone else want to add to passion?
I guess we keep
You go
bumping
first.
into
No, you go first. No, you go first. You go first. You got it.
Okay,
No,
De'Ara and Murphy.
yes. So back to Lattice and Murphy, especially when Murphy said that
All right, looks like De'Ara's having some technical. We'll come back. Murphy, go ahead while we have you on screen.
I know, oh wait, because I thought that was my computer at first. So sorry. No, so I was just gonna say real quick. I think one of the most important things I had kind of heard on my service-based trip when I went on it, because that trip was like for me like just completely life-changing, was, and I heard this from one of the service sites that we were at, and he had said to me, he said, "We don't have jobs at the end of the day. We have a mission." And I think that that's been something I've carried with me even to this very much day. And as I'm just picking, as I'm kind of figuring out what I want to do and what I really want to go into, I think that was one of the most important things that I had to remember in my head, is that I'm not going to a job every single day that I wake up. I'm not going to a job, or I'm not going to sometimes just another occupation. I'm going to what I believe is my mission at the end of the day. And right, for me, and what that looks like, I think that that takes on several different forms. I think that it may be in nonprofit work. I think that it may be in campaign management. I think that at the end of the day, whatever it is that you're going to do and whatever you're going to serve in, I think that you should be going to what you believe is going to be your mission. What you believe is right. What makes you get up every single day and think, I'm not going to a job. I'm not going to something that I'm just gonna, I'm moving out of the bed to just go and do something else. You want to get up every day and feel like you have some type of purpose. And I also think though, right, what we should also encourage is flexibility as well, right? And I think that this is something that I had to learn as I've been growing through college, is that, right, what oftentimes we believe is our purpose shifts a lot. And it changes. And I think that we should be okay with that change sometimes. I think, right, when I first started, I thought I wanted to be a lawyer. I thought I was going to come in here and be an attorney, right? And then I get here and I'm thinking to myself, me being an attorney, me going to law school isn't really what I want to do. That's not something I'm passionate about. I have friends who are going to be attorneys, but I was like, for me, right, that's not what I was going. That's not what I wanted to do. And I had to think to myself, why do you want to be a lawyer? And for me, right, let's just be real here, right? I was like, oh, I'm going to be a lawyer because I just want to pay my debts off. And then after that, I'm going to go do what I really want to do. And so it's like, when you think about it and when you're really thinking about what you want to do in these next coming years and past that, right, don't think of it as of something you want to make what is it? You don't think of it as if you want to just have an means to an end. Think of it as if you want to do something that is your mission, that's your purpose, that's going to get you excited and energetic every single day to be there, and you're going to be passionate about it.
So sorry. Horrible service here at school. Basically, what I was going to say was I agree with everybody saying, especially when Murphy said that school's an investment and you don't want to not be passionate when going into school. I think we have, especially our generation, I feel like we're so pressured to fit in this box and it has to be perfect. The corners have to be right, it has to be straight. But I feel like for me, personal experience, I feel like I had to go to college, that I had to be somebody because I was the first one out of my family going to college, especially HBCU, come from a small town. I had to do something. But lucky enough for me, towards the middle of my freshman year, I had to stop and say, what do I want to do? What do I love? What do I care about? What do I want to be when I graduate? I think that's why I did go into psychology, because I wanted to make sure that not only because I love being around people, but I wanted to make sure that if there is somebody else like me, I wanted to make sure that when I do become a high school counselor, which I will become, when speak that in existence, that I can find somebody who was like me and push them like I kind of wish I was pushed. So that's why I say, please be passionate. Don't just go in just because if not, then like you will have regrets and you won't be happy with that. So if that answers the question.
Yes, it does. Thank you for that. Laz or Sarai, you all can add also to our wonderful audience and viewers. We're going to take questions from the audience and after about 2 more questions. So please drop your questions in the chat so our wonderful panelists can ask. Sarai or Laz, did you want to add to that last question? All good. Okay, so leads me to my next question. We've talked about a lot of positives and a smooth transition into college, but as we already said, the road is not always that smooth. It can get a little bumpy sometimes. So I kind of want to touch on rejection from colleges and how to overcome that, and what have you experienced, if you have experienced anything like that?
So I have experienced a lot of rejection in my life, but in the realm of school. So when I graduated, on my senior year of high school, I actually was going to school for musical theater. I thought that was something I really wanted to do. I was passionate about it. And I had applied to a lot of schools, but my top 2 were Carnegie Mellon University and NYU, New York University's Tisch School of the Arts. And I didn't get into Carnegie Mellon, and I got waitlisted for NYU. So I was very down. I felt very down. I felt defeated. I was trying to persevere through and understand that, for a number of reasons, I might not have gotten picked, but it does not mean that I wasn't talented or that I didn't have what it takes to become great and become successful in my eyes. And from then, I went to Lake Forest College, and I was doing musical theater and theater. And from there, I realized that it wasn't what I wanted. So I'm so glad now, looking back, that I didn't get into those schools, because had I gotten into that program and been in such rigorous rehearsals, practices, different plannings for times that I would have on my own, I would be wasting my time. And so from then at Lake Forest College, I realized that that was not where I wanted to go either. And I'm glad I did not let the fear of rejection of me not getting into the schools coming straight out of high school deter me from applying to Howard to transfer as a college student. So when I applied to Howard, I had a lot of doubts. And I was very scared because the music program at Howard, the scheme for which classes you take each semester is very specific, and they prefer that you come in as a freshman because it's very hard to transfer credits. It's very hard to take certain classes as an upperclassman and not fall behind. So when I applied, I had all those things in mind. I auditioned, I got into the audition, and then I got into the school academically, so I was able to be admitted into the program. But I would just say that the rejection that I faced was very saddening. It was very hard for me to take, but I'm glad that I experienced it and I gone through it because I was able to go through it. Like I was able to have it happen to me and be able to, either succumb to it or to overcome it. So the fact that I was able to overcome it, it put in the back of my mind that in any other instance in my life, whether it be through school, personal life, friendships, relationships, I can experience rejection, but it's not always most of the time it's not even going to hurt you. It's there to help you. So it's how you respond, what you do past the rejection is what you're going to remember most.
And as you stated earlier in your bio, anything is possible with God, having faith and hard work. Okay, so that rejection, it happened for a reason. It was a part of the plan. So here we are now, HBCU, Howard University, the esteemed, the Mecca. Okay, it's supposed to happen this way. Okay, Sarai, I know you want to add next.
Yeah, sorry. I was just really excited for this question because I love this question. So, just a little bit of a personal story about me. I came from a pretty decent high school. I worked pretty hard throughout high school, but as I mentioned, I think briefly in the first question about how the pandemic kind of altered our educational experience, I did briefly mention that the pandemic did drop my grades a lot. I had a pretty solid 3.9, and then a lot of things happened during the pandemic, and my GPA dropped pretty dramatically. So unfortunately, I ended up applying to these very dream schools, and I had this kind of like idea in my head that I'm smart enough to get into these schools. I mean, I'm talking, Columbia, the Stanfords, the NYU, these like really upper echelon schools, because quite frankly, I was really insecure in myself and my academic ability. I wanted some kind of way to prove to the world and all the neighbors who ever said anything bad about me that yes, I am smart. I got into school. What do you have to say about it now? And this is in direct contrast to the way that my mother taught me to live my life, which is to live a life that is void of these external metrics and to not concern yourself with comparing yourself to other people. But that was my whole entire outlook. That was how I thought about the college experience. When I was checking off these boxes of what colleges I wanted to apply to, I would get who has the lowest acceptance rate and what is going to make me feel the best about my time to get in. Long story short, I ended up getting into none of those schools that I applied to. And I thank God every day that that is the case. Howard is where I'm supposed to be. Howard is the school that is the best for me. I am so thankful to my HBCU for being the only school that I applied to that looked at me and saw my potential. Because I know that I'm smart. I know that I'm capable. I know that I'm going to do wonderful and great things. And if I don't meet these metrics and I didn't have the highest GPA, I wasn't the highest in my class, I didn't get into all the schools that I wanted, I'm going to make an impact in the world. This is not about me getting into, the top, the Harvards, the Columbias. This is about me changing lives. This is about me wanting to be that best civil rights lawyer that I can possibly be. What better place for me to be here? A better place for someone like me, my afro wearing, brown skin, Africa necklace having self. Where else should I have been? And so I'm so happy that Howard saw that within me. I'm so happy that I'm here. I'm say to the people watching is please don't go for the name schools. Do not be concerned with comparing yourself to these other students. Please, for the love of God, do what is best for you and what school is going to get you where you want to go in life. Because the rejection that I went through was the hardest thing I ever did in my entire life. Being told consistently about every 2 weeks for the past of being in high school was the hardest thing that I ever did. And then to get here on this campus and to say I have 2 internships lined up for me, I have an award that I've already won. I mean, it's mind blowing. The reason I was able to just because where God wanted me to be. This is where I'm supposed to be. This is the environment that's going to lift me up and help me, myself, Sarai, like Ariola, Jacob to thrive. It might not help person B. Person B does the research to go where person B needs to go, so that they will be uplifted and they will feel, spiritually tethered to wherever they end up after high school. So, long story short, rejection was the best thing that ever could have possibly happened to me. I'm so much stronger because of it. I work so hard now. I have so much faith in myself, and I'm just so thankful again to my HBCU, for seeing value in me, regardless of what those other PWIs said, though.
Listen, I totally agree. I experienced rejection from my top schools. I did not get in, or they wanted me to take the SAT again. I had already taken it twice. It only went up 50 points. I didn't feel the need to waste the time or the money to do it again. So I went to one of the schools that I did get accepted to, which was North Carolina Central University. So I love your Aggie pride, Murphy, but it's really Eagle pride. I always bleed maroon and gray. Okay. But I then transferred to East Carolina University, where I received my degree. So I have a balance of HBCU and PWI. I'm one of those people who can speak to that conversation because I've actually experienced both. But like you said, it was a part of the plan. I did what I needed to do, and I ended up where I ultimately wanted to be. But rejection came first, and it was for a reason. And like you said, rejection all the time is not a bad thing. It can be the best thing that ever happened to you, like the best. We have time for one more answer if anyone else wants to add to that. I know that's hard to follow after Sarai. And then we're going to take a question from the audience. Go ahead, Murphy.
I know, because shoot, I said, look, she spoke for all of us right there, okay? But that was probably, I think, some of the most truest things that like you probably could have ever said. And I think that for me, rejection is scary. Rejection is definitely one of the most defeating things ever. But for me, fear of rejection is even scarier. And that was something that I had to learn whenever I was going through my college kind of process, right? So I'm a middle child, and for me, right, I was considered to my parents as like the perfect child. I was like the SGA president. I had did football. I ran track. I had kept a good GPA. I was like supposed to be that child, the golden child, basically. And it was that constant need of kind of, I guess, feeling perfect, of wanting to be perfect and whatnot, that I was so scared that I almost didn't come to Howard, actually. So I live in Texas now. I had applied to a school called the University of North Texas, which is a PWI. That was considered my safe school. And literally, I had did my housing application. I did my scholarship. I had gotten everything back, accepted into the school completely. And I was set to go to that school. And it was through one conversation that I had with like families and my mom and whatnot. And they said, when you graduate 4 years after this, is this something that you're going to regret? And I had to tell myself, like, yeah, I am going to regret that at the end of the day. Because I had wanted to go to Howard since 7th grade. When I had first saw Howard University, and I was like, wow, I'm gonna be there one day. But I was so scared because academically on paper, I'll admit I'm not the best student, right? I have when you're comparing me to some of the other academic students here at Howard University, my GPA is considered normal and mediocre. My SAT score was considered normal and mediocre. My extracurriculars and what I've done outside of the classroom are considered great, extravagant, right? But when you look at me academically on paper, I'm not the academic student. And I had to realize I was so scared of being rejected by Howard that I almost didn't even put in an application. And two weeks before the general body application was about to close, I submitted my application to Howard University. And that's Dr. Jackson's in the comments right now. And he has said that out of the 30,000 applicants who applied to Howard University, there were 2,300 seats that they accepted in there. And I was like, if I got accepted to Howard University, right, there's something bigger for me, and there's a bigger purpose that I'm supposed to serve there. And it's like when you get to really live and see what that purpose is, it's crazy. It's like, wow, like as y'all were saying, like, wow, like God be the glory, because you get to see what that purpose really comes out to be. And so like y'all were saying, right, the biggest thing is don't be scared of rejection. I had to learn that. Do not fear rejection, embrace it. Because the second that you fear it, you miss out on what your purpose and ultimately your blessings are going to be. If you're supposed to hear no, you're supposed to hear no for a reason. Because for me, right, I've heard a lot more no's than I've heard yeses. But one yes is enough for me to set me all the way through. So that was enough for me to be able to hear. And when I got into Howard, I was like, oh my, like, wow, they gave me a good scholarship. Like I'm getting a lot of these things. And it's like, you get to see that dream that you have being lived out to this day. So definitely, that's for me, right? It wasn't necessarily rejection. It's the fear of rejection. And I definitely need to tell people, like, don't be scared of it. Just hit it head on.
We thank you both for adding that rejection is not a negative insight. It's not a negative segue. It's positive. We're take rejection, and when they go low, we go high. That's it from there. Okay, that's it. We're going to take a question from Dr. Anthony Jackson. How have your college professors prepared you academically to navigate the real world as a person of color, particularly being Black? It's a great question.
For myself, I'd say they've helped me a lot, more than I could have ever imagined. So, just like you, I came from a PWI. Actually, been in PWI all my life, since kindergarten up until college, basically. But when I transferred out, I went to Howard. So, being at a HBCU, even in my history classes, I'm learning so much that I had never learned in school for 12, 13 years. And it's just crazy because there's so many things within school, the school like process that in teaching that teachers don't really teach you at PWIs. There's so many things that I've learned from teachers at Howard that are not in the book, that have come from their education at an HBCU or their familial connections and things like that. So I wouldn't say that at PWI they hide this information, but I would say they don't share it to you. They don't give it to you. So there are a lot of things actually that have developed because of Black people, because of the success of being Black in a Black institution. And you wouldn't have the opportunity, you wouldn't have the chance to learn that at a PWI. So I 100% promote HBCUs like an A plus plus. I'm so glad to have been here. I've never experienced anything like this. I would never have known had I not been here. So I'm just glad I'm here. My professors, with the exception of one, they're all Black. They all have come from HBCUs as well, so that absolutely helps. And then to be able to experience and hear from alumni who are 95% Black. Everybody is Black, and it's amazing to hear what they are doing, especially in the way that the world is right now, to find out why Howard was so good for them. Why do they feel that being at an HBCU was so pivotal in their success and where they are today? And had they been at a PWI, would they be in the same stance? Would they have the same opportunities as they do now? So hearing that is always so comforting and encouraging. So I always recommend that you go to an HBCU. If you are Black, go to an HBCU. Learning about your history is rich. There's just so much that you're gonna learn that you cannot learn at a PWI. So I always advocate for an HBCU.
I totally agree. A new mantra that I came across at an art show recently is a PWI graduate HBCU advocate. That's me. Put that in my bio. Put that in my bio. Okay, I'm a PWI graduate, but I am an HBCU advocate. If you can attend the HBCU, experience that experience. Even if you're just visiting the campus, you need to be in that environment. Anyone else want to add to that question before we wrap up?
Yeah, I do too.
Sorry. Okay,
Yeah.
Everyone can go and then we'll wrap up. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
So, Sierra and Murphy.
Okay. Yes, I 100% agree. As we know, I go to Langston University, the only HBCU in Oklahoma. Um, at first, when I came, I was told by multiple people was, please don't be your reasoning for only coming here was because it's HBCU. And I had to disappoint them. I had to. That was my main reason. I too came from a predominantly white high school. It was not normal, and it was really not okay to be somebody of color in a sense. And if I was categorized in the stereotypes. And if I ever got out of those stereotypes, I wasn't a good thing either. So I was always out of balance when it came to being somebody of color. So coming to an HBCU, especially Langston, there is so much legacy. There's so much history. It's when you come to Langston, when you step foot on our campus and you look around, it's not just, excuse me, it's not, of course you see millions different shades of people, but when you come to HBCU, you're not reminded that you're at HBCU. You feel like you're at home. You don't have to stress and worry about, am I acting out of character? Am I representing us correctly? You walk around and say, I am me. You know what I'm saying? It's not, you don't have to wear that on your forehead that you are somebody Black. You don't have to prove that you're Black or that you're representing your community, or you're just able to live and just go to school, walk around campus. And it's just a plus that we see you. And I'm sorry, it's a little more fun around here if you want to, if you're a little interested. We have a little more flavor over here.
Okay, Sarai and then Murphy.
So I just want to shout out Dr. Jackson. He's in the chat. He's my teacher. He's my intro to sociology teacher. And he's the teacher that I'll be speaking mostly in terms of answering this question. So how did my professors prepare me in terms of, being a Black person entering the world? I would say that the most important thing that a Black professor could do, regardless whether they're at a PWI or, at an HBCU, the most important thing that they do is they give you that foundation of Black understanding. They give you that foundation of understanding the world from the Black perspective, almost in a way that when you leave here, you will be gaslighted and you will be told that these indiscrepancies that you notice are not actually indiscrepancies and that you're actually just being delusional. But if you have that foundation, that it really just takes one professor. It doesn't even take a whole HBCU, to be honest, but obviously that's the better route. But it really just takes one professor to really show you that real diasporic lens of looking at the world. Because as you understand the way that oppression works and the way that oppression is able to succeed, is that the people who write the history books, the people who write the curriculum, they are a part of the majority. And that just simply is a fact. And the fact that the things that we're taught, even if they were blatantly teaching us that Black people are stupid, there are so many pseudo ways in which they weave that into our minds that we don't even ourselves understand on a conscious level that that's what we've been taught. So then to come to an HBCU or to walk into a Black professor's classroom where that kind of subconscious teaching is being blatantly expressed, it's being blatantly shown to you, it makes you feel so seen in a way that you might not have throughout your whole K through 12 experience, depending on where you're from. As an Atlanta native, that is exactly how my experience was. I felt so seen coming into Howard and having all of these things that I've noticed throughout my life. Why is it that we're taught that, why is it that we're taught this watered down version of the civil rights movement? Why are we only taught Martin Luther King only speaking and acting in a certain way? Why are these more violent civil rights activists being painted as criminals? Why? I come to Howard and these questions are answered and they're told to me that these questions are valid. So now I can go out into the world and I can see the world in a way that is relevant to my skin color, is relevant to my cultural experience, it's relevant to who I am. And I no longer have to feel that sense of insecurity that what I'm being delusional or I'm being crazy or I'm being an angry Black woman. I'm not being any of those things. I'm being a Black academic. And being a Black academic is a skill. It's about being critical. It's about questioning the world around you. It's about being critical of the things that people tell you. And that is a skill that you have to learn. It is deconstructing 18 plus years of oppression and internalized racism. And that is an experience that I've only been able to really say that I've gotten from Black professors, and especially from Dr. Jackson, and specifically professors here at Howard. So, yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Murphy, you can go ahead and wrap us up.
Yeah, so I definitely agree with that. And I would definitely say one of the main ways I think of professors and just the whole entire HBCU experience has prepared us for the real world is literally just solely by existing. When you look at your professors and when you look at the people who are in charge, I'll use Howard as an example, but I've had the chance to go and see Benedict University. I've had the chance to see North Carolina A&T University. I've had the chance to see North Carolina Central University. When you look at the administration, when you look at the presidents, when you look at the people who are underneath them, when you look at the professors on an everyday level, right? They're all you. They're Black. They are those living manifestations of the people that we want to be. We have Black attorneys here. We have Black politicians here. We have Black campaign managers here. Black people who are executives and companies, right? Those are manifestations of who we want to be as people. And every single day we sit in a classroom. Every single day we just sit there and watch. We are literally watching them and their manifestation of who we want to be. And I'll use once again, right? I'll also use Dr. Jackson as a really great example. Dr. Jackson, he's I think 28 years old, and he already has his PhD in sociology. And so for that, right, for people who want to be in academia, to know that we don't have to be older or we don't have to wait to just go and get our PhDs and our doctorates and whatnot. Is literally just moving. That in it being of itself is just its own living manifestation that we can be young, Black, educated, and gifted, and still be successful. And that's echoed every single day by by our professors. That's echoed every single day by the people that we look to in our administration. And then when we look towards other HBCUs as well, they prepare us to know that even if you leave this bubble, as I like to call Howard, my Black bubble, even when you leave this Black bubble, you will never forget the things that we've instilled, the little things, such as you being young, Black, and gifted, and the other little things, such as the people, the examples that have already been set by so many other people. You never forget that. Those are things you hold in your head, and those are memories and images that you'll remember forever.
All I can say is wow. I mean, you all, I am so proud of you all. I am so happy that you have shared your time and space with us today. And I'm just, as someone, I went to a predominantly white institution. I went to Penn State, and I sought out very unapologetically Black spaces. So between choosing a second major of African American history to pledging Alpha Kappa Alpha, you know, I've sought out these spaces where I was always seen, valued, and heard. So it's just really encouraging, and I appreciate the fact that you all have those spaces just walking around your campuses every day, all day. And I think that's amazing. So I truly appreciate that. And just real quickly before we go, I just want to ask you one last question. What is one piece of advice, if you can think back to yourself in 11th grade or 12th grade when you were getting ready to approach this journey into academia to work towards your degrees, what is one piece of advice you would tell your younger self? So let's start with Murphy and then go to Laz.
Oh wow, on the spot. Okay.
Right, I'm gonna call you out.
No. For me, the one piece of advice I'd give my younger self is you have everything, every single tool that you ever need and desire is already in you.
That's awesome. Thank you.
For me, I would tell my younger self that it's okay to do what you want to do. Don't do anything else for anybody else. No, I shouldn't say that. Don't gear your future towards aspirations for your family members, of your friends, or trying to make others proud. Make sure you want to do something for yourself so that you can have longevity in doing that.
Sarai, why don't you go and then De'Ara?
Sure. I would advise myself and anybody else looking to go into academia to just meditate on what success looks like to you. Visualize what success looks like to you, and then execute.
What about you, De'Ara?
I believe I would tell my younger self that I can do it and I will do it. And even though that anxiety is it's there, I will achieve it. It may be in little increments, but we will get it done, and we're gonna get it done.
Thank you so much. Sorry, I didn't even say who I was to the world watching. I'm Serena. I am the Academy Director here at Words Beats in Life. I think we lost Jakia, so that's all right. Oh, there she is. But we're gonna roll with it because we just make it do what it do. But I'm so proud of you all. Like I said, I'm so excited that you all came to us to give some of your time and talents, and I truly appreciate everything that you said. I was taking notes. I'm in my 30s and I'm learning a whole lot from y'all. All right. So age doesn't mean anything. I literally have quotes from Lam and Murphy and De'Ara. I have quotes from all of y'all. So I am really excited to just meditate on these. I think all of what you said is really excited, and really stood out to me is that you're so grounded in who you are. And I'll just speak for myself. At your age, I was not. Like, I was living my life for other people, including the degrees I got. I went to law school and things like that. And it really wasn't for me. I don't regret it, but it wasn't what I really wanted to do. So I just really applaud you all for like being unapologetically yourself and walking, within your individual purposes and like not really caring what the outside world is saying. So I just love that for you all. And I really encourage and empower you all to keep down those tracks. And again, thank you for being here. And thank you for spending this time with us and giving us these gems, because they were everywhere. And yeah, I think Jakia has some info for us, and then we'll say goodnight.
Thank you, Serena, for taking over. I don't know, we had some technical difficulties on this end, but like she said, we make you do what you do, and we're back. But thank you again to all of our panelists. Thank you to our audience. Thank you to our guests. Thank you to our executive director backstage handling all the logistics for us. We are so grateful for our team to make this happen tonight. If you're free, April 25th, Path to Graduation at 6 o'clock, same time, same place. Every student is unique. That's why no two paths toward graduation or getting a degree look exactly alike. Students need to think long-term, and that means planning for graduation doesn't start as a senior. It starts now, it starts in middle school, it starts elementary. As earlier, the better. Okay, so join us for the Path to Graduation session, where we'll help you do just that by helping you think through these options. That's April 25th at 6 p.m. And again, thank you all. Be safe, stay safe. See you next time.